Hello there guys, welcome back to Younes Talks Football, welcome back to a brand new video. I hope all of you are doing well today as we get into a blockbuster day in terms of Chelsea news. There's loads to go through. I did put out a video earlier on today. If you haven't caught it already, you can go and check out my video on Jose Mourinho and him taking legal action against Galatasaray, as well as Fenerbahce doing the same. And now, Galatasaray want to put criminal proceedings to Jose. I go into all of it, so make sure you have a look at that video. Also, to let you guys know, if you haven't already heard, right, and if you've been living in a cave over the last couple of videos, the watch-alongs are back. And not just for Chelsea, for non-Chelsea too. Top Premier League games, the Champions League last 16, even big other games from other leagues, we're going to be doing them. So make sure you guys are here. We've already done 2, Chelsea-Southampton. We've also done yesterday with Tottenham losing to Manchester City 2-0, as well as all the other games, Nottingham Forest, Arsenal 0-0, Liverpool went on to win 2-0, and Man United won 3-2 to Ipswich. We did them, so make sure you guys are subscribed, notification bell on, so you know when I've gone live, and you can keep up with all the content. Much appreciated. Now, let's get into the latest. We're going to start off light and then we're going to end heavy. That's what we're going to do, right? So let's start off light. Jens Lehmann, if you remember Jens Lehmann. Do you remember Jens Lehmann? Yeah? Arsenal goalkeeper? Yeah? We packed him out, don't worry. Didier Drogba put him in the net. But he spoke about Jorgensen and Maresca's comments towards him. So let's check that out first before we get into the heavy stuff. Here it is. Saying, sometimes I'm a fan of it. Goalkeepers playing out from the back. When you have space and when there's a need for it, what the manager said, if I was his superior, I would tell him you have to understand football in a different way because we're not here to play a certain style. We are here for Chelsea Football Club to win games. They won that game against Southampton, but they haven't won every other game. I was surprised that the Chelsea coach used that phrase, when you play long ball, I will change you. He will probably regret that because it's not about playing a certain style. It's about winning a game. Jens Lehmann, I hear what you're saying. And personally, I agree. Don't get it twisted. I agree. You're right with this, sir. However, according to Chelsea Football Club, and I think many other teams in the modern day, it's not necessarily about winning every game. I say winning every game. It should be about winning the game, yeah, and winning most games. But it is actually about playing a certain style, I'm afraid. It actually is. Because there's people now that believe that certain style will be what gets the team to win all games. And it's just, as far as I'm concerned, not logical overall. It covers you, I think. It covers you well. You're able to camouflage any faults with that. We're trying to stick to the plan. Oh, okay, life's good then. It alleviates the pressure. I personally didn't like that comment from Maresca as well, if I'm honest. About he did make it clear to Jorgensen during the game, which I think also tells us what's going on here. He did say to Jorgensen, if you go long ball, I'll change you. Yeah. Now Jorgensen just has to do what the coach says. So now I look back to Sanchez, who does pull off some good saves, but on the ball he's horrific. Yeah, but is he being told to execute that? Or is he doing that out of his own will? No. I think he's being told to do that. And he has to stick to that, even though he's not good. So, this is where I say, instead of looking, for example, in this situation, we look at the goalkeeper and we start yelling and blaming the goalkeeper. As much as they've gotten on our nerves, Sanchez specifically, right? During a game, it's like, Sanchez, what are you doing? I think now we've gotten our answer that they are just executing orders. In the same way that the dynamic at the football club is just people executing orders. That's how it is. Now, I'm not saying that Jorgensen or whoever needs to go against the coach. But in terms of Maresca, and I've recognized some of the good things that he's done this season, but being ultra obsessed on one way and making it clear that that way is the way, and if you divert from that, then you're going to get subbed off. That's not how football works. And I expect him to know that as an ex-professional. But is he trying to hammer it into these players so then they get better? They're not 12. Do you know what I mean? They're not 12 years old. These are professional footballers that know how to play football. Realistically, it should be, even if you were to just tweak a system or tweak a certain thing, there's players that are decent that should be able to execute on some sort of a level. We're seeing Sanchez suffer. Jorgensen, I think on the ball, bit better. You know, but even he's had his blunder. We've seen that against Aston Villa. So that's that. That's Jens Lehmann on Maresca. Let me know your thoughts. Now, I want to move to... Now he starts to get heavier. Yeah, that was light. If you thought that was heavy, switch off now. Here's Fabrizio Romano talking about the Luis Campos rumours and the current state of the Chelsea hierarchy. Chelsea are not planning to change their management structure, happy with current directors and planning with them. No negotiations taking place with other directors. I want to extend Luis Campos' contract, El Khalifi said about Campos' future despite Chelsea links. That's obviously from PSG. So that's Fabrizio Romano telling you that Chelsea are not changing the model. And there's more. David Ornstein telling us Chelsea always expect to qualify for Champions League, whether that's a formal objective or not. I know nothing about Maresca being under threat, and to the contrary, I think he is well liked. And while of course there are things he needs to learn and improve, I expect Chelsea to move forward with Maresca. So, again, nothing changing. Nothing changing. Now, again, with Maresca, I've made this clear. I've said this. I'm not coming for his head at all. But the fact that he is actually under zero pressure right now, the directors are not moving. They won't move because they are executing what is asked of them. The model stands. Because that was always the blueprint. Always. That's the issue here. Well, David Ornstein goes into more about the model. I can tell you from speaking to rival clubs, they're increasing speaking well of Chelsea. Quality of signings, age profile, contract lengths, wage bill, Maresca appointment, multi-club entry with Strasbourg, etc. It's never nice to be told to be patient, but I think that's required. The amount of on and off upheaval at Chelsea has been extraordinary, and it feels like we need to give it more time before forming concrete judgments. I'd expect a striker to be signed this summer. The same guy, I have to mention this, who said to us, that Chelsea can only be judged after 4 transfer windows. And now we've gone through 6, and we're about to go through 7 in the summer, is the same guy now who is saying, and it feels like we need to give it more time before forming concrete judgments. Was that not a concrete judgment? I don't need to say anything else. I really don't. They're not changing the model. They can't change the model. They're too far in. Money's been spent. Debt has been taken out. We now, I think, are sell to buy. Sell players, get money in, cool. Now we can buy someone. And then keep it along that way. The problem is we lack quality. And we lack elite levels. We lack a spine. We lack what you should have with 1.2 billion spent. So, now we move to the heavy stuff. Todd Boehly spoke tonight. So, we're going to hear what he's had to say at the Financial Times Business of Football Summit, where there were loads of business minds in relation to football talking in this convention, in this conference, and Todd Boehly was one of them. Not too long ago, he went on stage and spoke, and we are now going to go through these quotes that he has said and then judge them. So, let's get through it. Here it is. So Todd Boehly at the FT Business of Football Summit. Let's start. He's talking on Chelsea fan criticism, saying, I just think it is par for the course. The sooner you learn you're not going to keep all the people happy all the time, the freedom shows up. We are just trying to execute a plan and recognize things aren't linear. And we are trending in the right direction. The trend is moving in the right direction, and that's the thing that really matters. In June, it will be 3 years in charge. That's not a lot of time, especially when you get to 50, 60 or 70 years old in life. It's a whirlwind of activity and steep learning curve, but I think that's also a good thing. I have to recognize that there isn't one thing here to actually reassure fans on what's going on. All he has said is we are executing a plan things aren't linear, and we are trending in the right direction. I'd love to know what data tells us we are trending in the right direction. Where is that? Please tell me. I'd love to see it, because it doesn't look like we are. You know? So he's talking about steep learning curves, all of this. 3 years in, this is what we're still referring to? Questions. Now, this is where it begins to get interesting. He was asked about his relationship with Eghbali, Clearlake, right? And the rift, or so-called rift between them. Here's what he had to say. The one thing I've learned about the British press is they exaggerate a lot and leave stuff out. I am not going to comment. We have agreed on a strategy and a way forward, and stuff is getting done. And I don't look in the rear view mirror. On paper, yeah, that sounds great. But I think he's just told everyone that there isn't actually a rift going on between him and Clearlake here, and all is well, right? And if there was, well, it's probably very minuscule, and they're all on the same page, which is why when I look at the model and the owners and the way things are running, I put them all in the same bracket. They're all in there together. I'm not segregating or putting one above the other. They're all there. The problem before is that people were not recognizing that they were all there. People were just talking about Todd Boehly, and I found that unfair because Clearlake is there and Eghbali is there, and they're the majority shareholders. But I put all of them in the same. You came as a consortium. You all came together. You all operate together. It's as simple as that. Put them in the same bracket. Now people are putting them in the same bracket. Oh, cool. That's all there is. But now we get into more detail. Here it is. Boehly suggesting that the Premier League are given to shares each season, saying, as an investor in sports, I have the ability to drive emotions and outcomes. The top football brands are well equipped to grow in value. The NFL is probably worth 200 billion. Netflix is 400 billion. So the question is, would you rather own the NFL or Netflix? And my bet would be on the NFL. They will continue to create great content. Can I just pause that real quick? Yeah? He's just told you. Now, it's not about going and getting the most expensive thing. It's about going and getting the thing that is going to generate you the more revenue later. Hold that thought when we go and buy young players. Now, if you look at football in Europe, there's an evolution ongoing. The stadiums were built with a utilitarian mindset, and what you are going to see is more professional sports coming to Europe, like the NBA, and the product will evolve and provide new revenue opportunities. And if you grow revenue, you grow value. There is a bit of an unorganized landscape in European football, which reminds me of the retail sports network market in America. There is a handful of things that need to be sorted. One of the challenges is relegation in football. It's hard to price. If everyone was equal, you'd have a 15% chance of relegation. But everyone isn't equal, so you have to work out how best to address that valuation challenge. Relegation is cultural and not going anywhere. So why not every season when a team is in the Premier League, you get one share of EPL stock, and even if you go down, you keep that stock. You see how it's almost like he is alluding to offering a little bit more of a closed market. Relegation no longer has the same consequences as before, because now you still own a stock of EPL. Yeah, if you go down, you keep a stock. Why? Why should teams have these stocks in the Premier League, and if you go down, you keep? Why? I think that makes zero sense. It makes sense financially. Don't get me wrong. But on a footballing value, on a merit-based value, this makes no sense. No sense. But we're not talking football here. We're talking business, aren't we? So, more on being misunderstood, part of the Chelsea project. The most misunderstood thing is we are thinking about measuring success in years. You have to think both short and long term. We are focused on the combination on both those things and seeking the best way to execute. It is a balancing act. Strikers are hard to find. You don't go into the grocery store and say, I am going to get a striker. It's an amazing skill set, and you have to have the right mentality. Now, the first part of that, on paper, Absolutely correct. Makes sense completely. Yeah. You have to think both short and long term. And like I've mentioned before, many others, you don't have a long term without the short term. So that makes complete sense. But the problem is there's no proof to show us that Chelsea have acknowledged anything in the short term. That's the problem here. What have we done in the short term? Oh, wait. There's nothing. If we did address the short term, we'd have a spine. We'd have 2 or 3 top elite players in this team to set the levels that the young players can learn from. That's what we would do. We've not done that. But again, have we done things in the short term in terms of money? Well, yeah. We've splashed 1.2 billion. Or close to 1.5. Yeah, we've splashed that. Very quickly, should I say. Is that what he's alluding to in terms of short term and long term? Because now the model is more dedicated to the long term. So if he's talking about, again, money, then yeah, he's right. But talking about strikers, not going into the grocery store and saying I want to get a striker. Victor Osimhen was right there. What are we talking about here? Victor Gyökeres has a release clause ready to trigger if you want to trigger it and talk to the player. We've not done that. But Osimhen was right there, ready to do the deal on deadline day, and we couldn't get that done. So we were in the grocery store. We did say, I want a striker, and he was right there, and we didn't pick him up and go to the checkout. We left him on the shelf, and then Galatasaray came in just before closing time to just, take him out on a loan and then bring him back later. So, now, that's that. There's more. Todd Boehly, when asked if the Chelsea ownership will be the same by this time next year, he says, I can't predict the future. He also did mention here, and I've got this quoted, if I want to show you this. I can't predict the future. If I could, I wouldn't be here talking to you. I've got to say, that one's a little bit bizarre. What does he mean by that? You can't predict the future. If he was asked if the Chelsea ownership will be the same by this time next year, he doesn't just go, yes, of course. We can't sell for 10 years, apparently, so we're all going to be here. Doesn't say that. He says, I can't predict the future. So what does that tell you? Read between the lines. At the bare minimum, someone can sell. At the bare minimum. So that's that. There's more. Here's his words on the strategy. You can't turn left and right every 3 minutes. That might be some of the advice we get if you really boil it down. Basically, they're sticking to what they've put out already. And they're not changing. And that's that. So, this is why there have been fans that have come to the conclusion that the only way to pile pressure is to come out and say that blue coat out as a whole. Not just to try and, what's the word I'm looking, dilute whatever issue. There's so many issues at the football club that in order to pile them all into one box, it all stems to the ownership, basically. Right? That's it. So, I also want to address one thing, because there was one thing said tonight, which I'm going to try and bring up, that is very important. And I'm going to end on this, because I feel like this tells you exactly where things are heading, right? He did allude to the possibility of football as a whole being streamed on one platform, right? If I'm going to just get this up for you guys right now. There we are. So let me show you this. Todd Boehly thinks football is headed towards competition, sending all rights to one streaming platform. Who's mentioned that already? Some of you will know. The Super League. Do you remember when the Super League came out with their initial proposal? They spoke about, there was a part of their manifesto that was alluding to one streaming platform where clubs will have shares in and everything will be broadcast on that one platform, and that's it. My prediction, I'm going to make this prediction, is as soon as the Premier League gets monopolized by American ownership overall, investors that have come from the NFL, NBA, MLB, etc. Once that is monopolized and we get 14 owners, and by the way, there's a rumor that Tottenham, Daniel Levy is entertaining selling Tottenham, by the way. Just saying. ENIC might be selling. And they are apparently entertaining American investors. If they monopolize the league and we end up with 14 American owners, I can absolutely see teams in the Premier League, especially the Big Six and beyond, if it comes to it, all voting in agreement with joining the Super League. That's my prediction. The Super League didn't disappear. They're still there, and they've amended themselves, and they keep changing things in order to try and make themselves look a little bit more acceptable to the football world. And they've come up, I think, with 3 or 4 various different proposals now where it keeps getting amended, and there's little amendments here and there. And they've done that. I think it's going to get to the point, because the money and the possibility of massive globalization and huge revenue streams that will come from the Super League, I think that's exactly where it's heading. And people like Todd Boehly will look at that and go, hell yes, please. And I think just that one point there about streaming tells you where it's heading. The point about NFL, etc., tells you where these guys are all looking. I'm going to say this again. He's made clear, they've made clear, the model's not changing. They're keeping the same people in charge. Nothing's been disrupted. It's going to keep going. My thing is, it doesn't come from the directors. It doesn't come from Maresca. It doesn't come from Cole Palmer. It comes from the very top. The only way to pile pressure on them is to pile pressure and go for the ownership at the top. That's what this past protest was about. All the problems that we have at the football club under one umbrella of Blueco, you are the problem here. Simple as that. Everyone can have their right to an opinion on what they think the problem is. The truth is, all of those problems that were mentioned are correct and legitimate problems. Again though, all under the one problem of who's stemming it, who's driving it. Upstairs, the ownership. This is the state of affairs at the moment. So, let me know your thoughts down below. As Todd Boehly has spoken, those are his words. I think a lot of people are not going to like what we've seen today from Todd Boehly and what we've heard. And yeah, nothing on Vivid Seats, even though his company is majority shareholder of Vivid Seats, isn't it? 39 or 40% it is. You know, joined with BlackRock and Vanguard and all them lot. Well, you know, it is what it is. But nothing on the stadium either. Nothing on the front of shirt sponsor. We knew we wouldn't hear on all this, but we got enough here, I think, to tell us exactly where him and the owners stand. So let me know your thoughts. What do you think down below? Much appreciated. I'd love to hear all of it. And I will catch all of you tomorrow for brand new video, maybe a double upload. We'll see what happens, but make sure you guys are here, subscribed for all the content as it drops and the watch alongs that are coming as well. And I'll see all of you on the next one. Have a good one, people. Look after yourselves. Take care and peace.